And we're live. Welcome everybody to this week's Azure and AI Show. We have three great speakers with us today. So we have Jonas there. He's going to start off um, doing some stuff, the MCP servers. And we have Sandra then. He's going to do some more stuff. And we have Ash there as well, coming in after that. So I'll hand it over to you there, Jonas.
Okay, thank you. Well, maximize my screen. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this talk about Playwright, and specifically Playwright as an MCP server and how to use it to test. Well, I did put in the slideshow Blazor application, but to be quite honest, it really doesn't matter. You can host it wherever you want, and it can be Blazor, it can be a JavaScript, so it doesn't really matter. So a bit about me. Well, I've been a software developer for, longer than I can remember, about almost 30 years now. Quite passionate about .NET. I simply have been in the .NET ecosystem ever since the original version 1.0 came out in preview. So that's quite a while. I work as I have got my own title, lead Microsoft development consultant for a local Dutch company, Berkeley. And I also work as a coach trainer for my own company, GMAX Software Solutions. And I love to share my knowledge and experience. So I do that through a number of channels. And I'm also an MCT and MVP. Okay, but that's enough about me. What are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about a bit of unit and UI testing and why it's so difficult. Then I'm going to do a quick introduction into Playwright. I'm diving into code, and at the end, we will come to a conclusion. Okay. I'm not quite sure who in the audience has a development background. And it's quite difficult. Normally, when I do this in person, it's easy to raise hands. It's difficult now to do it through a live stream. But I do talk a lot to developers. And most of the time, they say, well, I hate testing. Okay, why? Well, especially around UI testing, there are some common frustrations and challenges that you face. And yeah, I must say I have the same experience. So getting the test to set up is complex. Tests are flaky. If a site behaves a bit slower or a bit faster than you expect, things fall. If you move elements from the left to the right, things might break. And there's also a lack of documentation. So it's difficult to find your own. Well, so it will be time-consuming and repetitive. And if you look at, of course, at the software development, you do have to keep on developing and testing and retesting and retesting. And that does take a lot of work. And that means that it will take a lot of development time. And it will take you time away from doing the real coding. At least that's what some developers really think, that development is all around writing code and testing is not part of it. Well, do want to disagree, but okay, that's a feeling. So there's a need to do efficient testing. But what if I would tell you that there is one way to become a happy developer who can do a lot of things and even build reliable software? Well, that's where Playwright comes along. And in this talk, I'm going to focus a bit on the .NET specific one, given my background, which is quite normal. But you will see it's not specific and tied to .NET at all. So what's Playwright? It's an open source automation library for end-to-end testing. What does this mean? It's built by Microsoft, and end-to-end testing, that means that I can test a user interface with it. And that user interface can be connected to a database. But I can also use it, for instance, to test web APIs. And I can do that with the same tool. And what are the key features? Well, building web applications is difficult. And why is it so difficult? Because you have to test on all the different browsers and preferably on all the different operating systems. And that does take a lot of time. And you don't always know when a certain element will appear. And conventional testing frameworks used wait statements, and you simply had to determine how many seconds you want to wait. The fortunate thing about Playwright is it will auto-wait. And it has got retries built in. So if it can't find an element, it will retry in a certain amount of time. And web applications have become more powerful. And that means that there are some powerful APIs that are being used. And Playwright does give you the opportunity to plug in to those APIs and use them. For instance, if you want to do time management and time manipulation, it's easy doable. Okay. It's a framework. A framework does mean that you have to write code. And there's a number of languages that are supported. Node, Python, Java, .NET. And it's a Microsoft product, and that's quite strange, but .NET is not the primary language in Playwright. Yes, you can use .NET, but you will see a lot more examples, for instance, coming from Node, which is quite understandable because if you look at the entire web application ecosystem, more applications are written in JavaScript, TypeScript languages than they are in .NET. But you can use all of them. And I don't expect you to be an expert at unit testing in .NET, but there are some different testing frameworks that you can use. NUnit, an open source testing framework, MS Test, Microsoft specific, XUnit, which is used a lot in the .NET ecosystem natively. And all three you can use. But I did put the last one between brackets because XUnit is supported, but the tooling support for it is actually missing. So effectively, you do have two choices, NUnit or MS Test. And I will already give away, I simply flipped the coin, and for this session, I'm going to use MS Test. And if you're talking about applications that you are going to test, that means that you also have to have some kind of application. And when I was prepping this talk, I thought, well, okay, what are we going to do? I can easily generate the default Blazor application where there's a counter button and some weather forecast being displayed, which is quite nice, but it doesn't resemble real world. Well, next to being a professional software developer, I also do some software development as a side job, and I'm also a medical first aid provider for events. And the charity that I work for does need an application to manage all the events. And part of that application that I'm building for that charity will be used as a demo for this talk. Okay, so what will that mean? How does that application, what does it look like? Well, let's simply find out. Let's minimize this one. Minimize this down. Where is my... Yep. There it is. Welcome to the Medical First Aid Manager. It's not completely feature ready, and it's a snapshot of the thing that I'm really building. But what you will see, of course, there's a home screen. There is some possibility to load events and to view details about certain events. And events will be split up in shifts because an event can last sometimes 16, 18 hours, and you don't want to volunteer to work 18 hours a day. So you can split it up in shifts, and you can assign volunteers to a certain shift. Okay. And of course, not surprisingly, I can create an event. Okay. That's the basis of the application that we're going to work with. Okay. Perfect. But if I want to test this, I do have to switch to Playwright, right? Okay. For this talk, I'm going to use the easiest possible way. I could do this in Visual Studio. I can do this in JetBrains Rider. I can do this in whatever I want. I thought, well, okay, what am I going to use? I'm going to use a tool that's being used a lot in web development anyway, Visual Studio Code. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project. And now I probably have to wait a bit for the discovery. And what I'm going to do is I'm going for Playwright. And now you can see why I did say, well, okay, XUnit is not really supported because there's only MS Test and NUnit for a template. Well, let's pick MS Test. Wait for it to do it. Come on. Yeah, okay. And I'll simply name it end-to-end. And put it in the default directory. Use a certain solution format. Quite happy with it. Okay. What will happen? By default, now, and I will simply, when I do talk a bit about what got generated, I will build it in the background. What do you see? What do you have? Is actually abilities to navigate. So my first choice could be simply to start writing all the code that I need myself. I could do that. Will take me a bit of time. It will give me a lot of control. That's the benefit of it. But it's not probably the thing that I'm really am looking for. Well, fortunately, I don't have to, because a lot of people, let's see, where is new terminal, are able to use a different thing. So I'm opening up my terminal because I do want to show you something else. And don't worry about bin debug net10, because the nice part about Playwright is it has what we call a code generator. So I'll simply boot up the code gen, and it probably will come up on my other screen. So wait for it to pop up, and I'll drag it into my main screen. And in the meantime, while we wait, don't worry if you have any questions. I have a second monitor on my right-hand side. So if you have any questions, so just put them in the chat and I will be able to see them. Okay. Welcome to our recording. So what we're going to do, I am going to navigate to my website. I'm going to put this one in MS Test because that's what I want. And I'll use a different browser. It's already recording. So what you can see, it will navigate. Okay. And normally when you start testing, you will have to check, well, okay, what scenario do I want to check? Well, in this case, what I want is I want to be able to assert that the event that I see here is actually the first event. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assert on this title. I can even say, well, I want to assert that this thing is visible. I'm going to hit the detail button. I do want to verify that. What would be nice if I verify that this one will be on the starting date. Okay, and I want to verify that I can go move back to events. Okay, stop recording. Copy it, moving it to my testing solution, paste it in. Don't worry, do have to have a using. Okay, and what I now can do is simply say, well, get another terminal and simply say .NET test and see if it works. We'll have to build. Just give it a sec. This is always difficult if you have to wait during a presentation. Okay, so it did succeed. Perfect. And I didn't even save it, so it didn't even run it. But I'm going to show you something else. Because during the test, you didn't see anything. Now I do instruct my environment that it should go in an headed mode. Normally it will run headless and you won't see a thing. And that's fine because actually seeing something will delay. So just give it a few seconds to pop up. And it probably will come up on my other screen. So yeah, that's what I thought. Let's wrap it up. You succeeded. Nice. But where does the MCP server come into play? Well, fortunately, this entire automation, discovering of websites, you can do a lot with the MCP server for Playwright. Playwright can actually discover and go through a certain website and help you discover some key functionalities. But in order to do that, you do need it to give it some instructions. So I'm going to give an instruction file. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to copy over instructions that I have come up with during using Playwright. Okay. So what do I say? Well, you are a Playwright test gen. You should use C#. You should explore a website first. This will be very important for the use of the MCP server, because I do say, well, okay, I want you to explore 5 key functionalities. And this one is got a lot to do about the way that elements are actually selected. And that does mean a lot because if you don't select the right elements, your test will become flaky. Okay, so that will mean that if I go here, that I should check if my MCP Playwright server and my docs are running. And I always include the Microsoft Docs because it will pull in some best practices that perhaps the Playwright MCP doesn't know about yet. Okay, and then I could simply say, well, you know what? I put you in plan mode and I want you to start exploring, of course, exploring the site. Okay, there it is. Did I? No. Yep. So I could use this. Simply say, well, you know what? I want you to explore this. Okay. What I have done, I can fire this up, but this can take quite some time. So what I have done a few days ago is simply do the same, but record it. And I will run the video by you and explain to you what will happen. So let's watch the Playwright MCP server discover tests for a running website on its own. So you will see that I hook up the instructions, that I give the same command. I, in this case, chose Claude Sonnet. A lot of models work for this. Okay, what you will see is it's trying to explore the website, a sub-agent, and now if we just wait and see a bit. Working. Perfect. I did forgot to activate the MCP service. And I thought, well, okay, I can simply cut this from the video, but I don't want to do it. So if you get this message and you want to use the Playwright MCP server, simply activate it again. In this case, I simply stop it, start with a new context, and do the same thing all over again. Put it in plan mode, get the instructions, and enter the prompt. Okay. And now you will see that it will start navigating, and you will see quite a different response, because you will see it starts fetching, and you do have to allow it a lot of times. Normally, if this is working normally, you can simply say, well, I want to give an allow rule, but I didn't want you to think that everything worked automatically, so you do have to acknowledge that it can do something. Well, and if you look at this, it discovered on its own that there's some user registration and authentication that I didn't even show you. There's something around event management, around shift scheduling, staff management, dashboard options. And all I did was simply point it to a website. Okay. And it got not some details what it should do for testing. And if I'm happy with the plan, I can simply hit the start implementation. And what you will see then is that it will automatically switch to agent mode, because in a plan mode, you can't generate code. So start implementation. I even added it for the functionality, but it will probably understand it. And now I do speed it up. And what you will see is it will start iterating over the plan that it generated and trying to come up with a lot of working code. And it will iterate a lot. We'll do some testing. And in the meantime, you can see it will create screenshots from all the pages it visited. So you can actually see what is fed into the LLM. Okay. It's working. And this is sometimes the most frustrating part when you are working with the Playwright MCP server. You will see a lot of errors popping up. And sometimes it simply goes from 2 errors to 6 errors, back to 2, back to 1, back to 5 or 6. just as always when you're working with an LLM, you do have to make a decision. When do I simply stop generating code and take over? Well, for this video, I thought, well, okay, I already came to the conclusion this will be difficult, but I'm going to continue anyway, simply to see if it could fix everything that it had broken. So I simply let it iterate, still failing. And great success. It managed to create a lot of test cases, 28 tests in just 21 minutes. And if I look at that, well, I did show you the recording. That took me about a few minutes for just one test. And I even have to discover and come up with a test plan. And now I simply say, well, okay, Playwright MCP server, do your thing. And it generated 28 tests. Okay, and now you may think, well, okay, nice. But what's the quality of the tests? Well, a good point. Always good to investigate. So let's see. 2 tests were generated, event management and shift scheduling. And let's simply look at it. Well, I must say, I'm quite happy with the tests that it created. Are they perfect? No. Are they good enough? Probably yes. Do they cover everything? Definitely not. But I didn't instruct the MCP server to go into certain specific scenarios, which I could have done. And then I would have gotten even more tests. So I must say, if you look at this, at the quality of the tests that it created and the speed at which it created, I'm quite happy with it. So, given that this is just a short demo, what will be my conclusion? Well, Playwright will simplify the testing process for web applications. It's robust for cross-browser, and I hope that I have shown you that the code gen option, but specifically the MCP server option, can save significant time. Yes, it can cost you a lot of tokens, so you do have to keep a close eye on that one. But then again, looking back, 20 minutes, more than 20 tests, it's way faster than I can write my own tests. The fortunate thing is, for both the MCP server, but also Playwright as a framework, there is good community support, there's good documentation. So from my standpoint, it's an ideal choice for adding end-to-end testing in your development workflow. And that comes to the point where I say, well, okay, do you have any questions? I do have a look at the chat. I didn't see anything happening there. Not a problem. What you can do if you rewatch this, because I see that a number of people are watching, probably it will be on review or being viewed afterwards. Not a problem. If you have any questions, simply reach out. I've got my blog. The best way to reach me is through X or Twitter or Blue Sky, and the code that you have seen, you can find on my GitHub. And I also have, but that's really development specific, one Dutch YouTube channel and one English YouTube channel, all around coding in .NET. Okay, I would say, I hope that this was a good introduction for you, what an MCP server like Playwright can do if you let it simply run. I would say, simply give it a try. And if you run into trouble, reach out to me, reach out to the community, and we will try to help you. And now I would say, well, I hope that we have a great new session.
Very good.
Very good, John. Thank you so much. You're elaborated. You gave the live session, right? So that is very good.
Yeah, I love doing the things live. PowerPoint's boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to see it kind of running, and it's kind of it's correcting itself, isn't it? Just kind of seeing the mistakes, and then it goes back and try and fix it, and keeps going around in circles. It's training itself, really, isn't it? Kind of to see what errors come up, and then it, yeah.
Yeah, and the good thing, it also knows a bit about the problems that, for instance, a Blazor application can have with the state loading in giving the different rendering modes that you can choose. So it does know a lot. And I must say, sometimes I simply break it off, because there are many times when I have a user interface, and especially user interface that doesn't adhere quite nicely to all the UX best practices, then it will make things worse. And then it's probably sometimes better to simply say, well, okay, I'm going to cut it and do it myself. But simply allowing it to keep on running, sometimes you will get surprised. So be a bit patient, like you have to be with a lot of LLMs. Have some patience, and in the end, they may surprise you. They may disappoint you, but hopefully they will surprise you.
Very good. So, do you want to share your screen there with us?
Yeah, I'll be sharing. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay. And if anybody has any questions, stick them into the LinkedIn or YouTube, and we could try and answer them for you.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yep, there we go. I'll just move you up there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, mine is like a PowerPoint presentation. I think for Johan it will be more, but I come up with this one. Okay. So yeah, today I'm going to discuss about modernizing healthcare system with Azure secure, scalable, and interoperable. So my little introduction is my full name is the big name Sudarshan Kumar Ramayanam, and I'm having 22 years of IT experience. I worked in various domains, healthcare, financial, and then even telecom domain also, like where Frank is staying in Ireland. So I work for Ircom Telecom also long back. So my current company is Gainwell Technologies in California. So yeah, today I'm going to present Azure and AI Show, which is like exploring practical approaches to healthcare modernization using Azure cloud services and AI capabilities with a focus on security, compliance, and interoperability in real-world healthcare environments. So why we need, see, for everything nowadays we are talking about AI. What is the modernization is required. See, back in 19th, the software when started for the healthcare system, there are the big mainframe servers carrying in the truck, lot of servers, maintenance. See, all still people are needed the legacy technologies, right? So those servers nowadays, due to the AI arrival, lot of changes are happening to the legacy system. Because I worked for very large organizations. I worked for Morgan Stanley in New York. I work for the California Healthcare Department, healthcare. So still they're all using the legacy infrastructure, but they're coming out of it. So this is the era where we need to appreciate the latest technologies. So my current system, the California welfare system I'm working, so where we are having the legacy infrastructure, but we are coming out of it now. So it has the claims, eligibility benefits, and payment system built for reliability, not modern demands. So we need, as per this IT challenge, the today requirement was we need the real-time access, seamless interoperability, secure data exchanges across ecosystem. So this is the gap. Like first, we need the digital first healthcare landscape requires cloud native modernization without disrupting the operation. So that is the main key here. See, we don't, because since it's the larger applications, we don't want to disturb the regular business. So we, as doing the business continuity plan, we need to do this modernization. So we have lot of agile methodologies came, so where we can take up like the low impact environment, and first we can try the modernizing that using that, then from there gradually we can increase the modernization. So that way, like the business continue will be exist. So I have categorized here 4 paths for modernization, where it's rehosting, replatforming, refactoring, and re-architecting. So each modernization has its own challenge and own effectiveness. So basically, based on the customer need and then the large volume of data, we can choose which platform, which modernization we can go with. So as terms in terms of rehosting, it's a simple thing where we can do the lift and shift to Azure infrastructure with minimal code change for a quick migration. And replatforming is optimized for cloud by adapting managed services while preserving the core architecture. And the another one is refactoring, modify applications to leverage cloud native features and improve performance. And the last one is re-architecting, where you're redesigning the entire application using the microservices, containers, and serverless for maximum agility. So what is hybrid cloud strategy? So a bridge between legacy and cloud here, so which we are going to talk. So Azure Arc and hybrid connectivity enable gradual transformation without disrupting critical healthcare operations. This is the major point we need to focus, because we don't want to disturb the existing healthcare system, because it will be using by millions of users. So in terms of California, so our system, CalSA system I'm working, almost 17 million people are using the system. So it's a huge reputation. So that's why for a larger system, we need to be the gradual transformation that was recommended. And we need to maintain on-premises system during transition, like extend Azure services to existing infrastructure, enable consistent governance and management, support phased migration timelines. So for every platform, if you're redesigning, you need to consider the major roadblocks or those security features. So here we are having compliance, security, and compliance foundation, where zero trust architecture, so which is identified as never trust, always verify, implement identify based access controls, continuous authentication, like we'll be having the authentication thing whenever we try to access any system. So always will be the latest apps will be getting the authentication messages and codes, and unleashed privilege principles across all Azure resources. And another one is TLS and SSL encryption, where it protects the data in transit with end-to-end encryption protocols, secure all communication between services, applications, and external systems. And the last one is HIPAA and GDPR alignment. HIPAA is a major thing because the highly protected elements here. So personal and information we need to protect as for the healthcare as well as the banking sector. So meet regulatory requirements with Azure compliance frameworks, audit trials, and privacy controls designed for healthcare data protection. So interoperability standards. So we have 2 things here for the healthcare system, where HL7, FHIR, and DACOM. So FHIR is a fast healthcare interoperability resources, where it has a modern REST API based standard, enables a seamless data exchange, supports patient records, medications, observations, and Azure API for FHIR provides managed service. Whereas in DICOM, this is a medical imaging standard, where industry standard for medical imaging. supports radiology, cardiology, and workflows. Azure DACOM service for cloud storage integrates with AI for image analytics. So Azure services for healthcare modernization. So these are the services we can utilize from Azure. So where we have is Azure SQL and Cosmos DB, so which is like a secure database with built-in high availability, and it has automated backup feature and compliance certification for healthcare data. And in terms of app service, platform as a service for hosting web applications and APIs without auto scaling, load balancing, and integrated security. And we have the key vault, where the centralized secrets management for encryption keys, certificates, and credential with hardware security modules. And one more, Azure AI services, where we have the pre-built AI models for medical imaging analysis, natural language processing, and predictive analytics capabilities. And the another one is API management. Secure, manage, and monitor APIs with rate limiting authentication and comprehensive analytics for interoperability. And the final one is Azure Monitor, full stack observability with application insights, log analytics, and alerting for proactive system management by creating the various dashboards where you can see the graphs, how the data is increasing, how many patients are applying for the claims. All those things will be detailedly monitored and picturized here. So in terms of AI powered transformation, like unlock healthcare innovation, Azure AI enables intelligent automation, clinical decision support, and enhance patient experience while maintaining compliance and security standards. So there are three items here, which is clinical documentation, so where you can automate the medical transcription and coding, and then image analysis, AI assisted diagnosis and radiology, predictive analysis, where you can identify the risk patterns and outcomes. So modernization without disruption, so which is the primary goal of this migration, because we don't want to disrupt the existing functionality or existing business. So that's why there are like 5 different phases I just nailed down here. So the first one is assessment phase. So first we need to assess, like evaluate the current system, what are the major dependencies and what are the key items and the compliance requirements to identify modernization priorities. And the second one is proof of concept, which is test Azure services with non-critical workloads to validate approach and build confidence. This is what I mentioned earlier. So first we'll go with a non-critical application in the system, and once we test all those things, then we can gradually increase our proof of concept for other critical applications or application modules. Okay. And the third one is phased migration, move system incrementally with rollback plans, minimizing risk to ongoing operations. So for everything in software industry, like we need the rollback plan, because we cannot predict, like if you are installing any new product, we are, even though we are testing, we will be seeing a lot of hiccups in when it went to the live. So that's why we always should have rollback plan, as well as the DRs, which is dress rehearsals, the regions. So those things, the migration, each migration compulsory require the rollback plan. And then optimization, so refine architecture, improve performance, and leverage advanced Azure capabilities. The last one is continuous innovation. So for every industry, the world is not going to end at one. If you are installed one thing, that is not the end. So you need to keep hunt for the new innovations, new features, and new market requirements, and new customer features. So that's why innovation has to be done rigorously. So establish DevOps practices and iterate based on user feedback and emerging technologies. So measurable business outcomes. So we are I listed here 4. So which is like a faster deployment, reduce time to time market for new feature and services with cloud native development, and cost reduction, lower infrastructure and maintenance cost through managed services and automation. So as I mentioned earlier, the legacy systems, just let's take an example of mainframe servers. So the maintenance and cost will be very huge. So the servers are occupied very, very big rooms. Now, based on this latest AI technologies, the infrastructure maintenance will be very low, and then cost also will be manageable. And then availability, achieve higher uptime with Azure global infrastructure and disaster recovery, and compliance ready, meet regulatory requirements with built-in controls and audit capabilities. So real world considerations. So there are like how we are considering in the real world ongoing projects or ongoing the software applications where the change management. So you need to educate the teams with the latest technology, latest changes and latest features which we are bringing up into the system. So that's why prepare teams, working teams through training, communication, and stakeholder engagement throughout the modernization journey. And data migration strategy, plan for data validation, testing, and cutover process to ensure integrity and continuity of healthcare records. And integration complexity, address dependencies between systems, third-party vendors, and legacy interface during transformation. So these are the key takeaways. So based on the modernization, so which one to choose? So choose the right modernization path. As we discussed earlier, there are like four methodologies are there, like rehosting, replatforming, refactoring, and re-architecting. Based on the business code and the technical constraints, we can choose which one will be suitable for the current application. Once you choose the path, then you need to be majorly consider on security and compliance, which are non-negotiable. So implement a zero trust architecture, encryption, and align with HIPAA and GDPR from day one to protect the patient data. Embrace interoperability standards. So leverage HL7, FHIR, and DRM to enable seamless secure data exchanges across the healthcare ecosystem. Then start small scale strategically. So use hybrid models and phased approaches to modernize without interrupting critical operations, building momentum over time. So building a foundation for innovation. So as discussed earlier, so once we migrated, it's not going to the end of the era. So we need to do the innovation for upcoming challenges and integrating the new features. So healthcare modernization is not a one-time project. It's an ongoing transformation that positions organization for continuous innovation. Azure cloud and AI capabilities provide the scalable, secure infrastructure needed to adapt to changing regulations, patient expectations, and technological advances. By thoroughly migrating legacy systems, implementing robust security frameworks, and embracing interoperability standards, healthcare organization can deliver better patient outcomes, operational efficiency, and competitive advantage in the digital age. So with this, I'm concluding my slide. So I hope I conveyed the thing what I want to. So even though like I don't have the real time scenario, so whatever thoughts I presented here, okay.
Yeah, very clear and to the point. We don't have any questions in the chat anyway. Any guys? Any questions?
Thank you.
Good.
Do you want to share your screen there with us, Ashish?
Yeah, you can hear me okay, right?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Yeah, we
You
can
see
see
me?
that now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So good evening, good afternoon, good morning. And thank you, Frank, for having me here again. I'm Ashish Tibolia. I primarily work in the financial domain. All of my experience in till date has always been in the financial domain, where I kind of lead large scale data and AI initiatives, and produce the next generation intelligent financial systems. It's obviously it's my pleasure to be with you today at the Azure and AI Show. Give me a second. Let me just adjust my. So today, I'll be speaking about building the credit risk model using Azure machine learning with a strong focus on the responsible AI. In the financial industry, credit risk model play a very crucial role, as we all know, in decision making. Basically, who gets the loan, right? And what are the rate and under what condition? Uh, these decisions directly impact the customers' lives and also affect the stability of the financial institution. With Azure machine learning, we can build a scalable, accurate, and automated credit risk model using the modern machine learning techniques. However, as we all know, accuracy alone is not enough. These models must also be fair, transparent, explainable, and compliant with the regulation. And that is where responsible AI comes into the play. Responsible AI helps ensuring that our models do not introduce biasness. The decision that is made can be explained to regulators and customers, and the model are continuously monitoring from the drift to risk. So in this session, I'll be sharing the best practices on how financial institutes can combine Azure ML and responsible AI to make ethical, trustworthy, and effective credit decision. This is the agenda. The session is structured in 5 parts. The part number 1 is where I will briefly talk about the credit risk modeling fundamentals. Then I'll explain the Azure machine learning, how Azure machine learning can support end-to-end model development from the data ingestion to featuring the engineering and training, validation, and development. Then I will focus on the responsible AI and credit risk, covering the fairness assessment, model explainability, and governance. After that, we'll also look into the model monitoring and evaluation. And then finally, I'll conclude my session with the key technical takeaways and best practices for building the scalable and compliant credit risk model. So this is the first part of the segment where the credit risk model is, as we all know, essential for the financial institution to evaluate the likelihood of borrowers being default. So this section covers the foundational concept, the shift from the traditional to data-driven method. I'm a data guy, so what I feel is everywhere data play a very crucial role, and so my focus would also be here on data and AI. And obviously, we'll also discuss the key challenges which are faced in building the accurate data model. So credit risk is the risk that borrower. Just a small background on what is the theme of this presentation today, right? So the credit risk is the risk that borrower will fail to meet the contractual financial obligation. In the quantitative risk management, the risk is typically modeled using 3 core concepts. One is the PDs, which is also known as probability of default, which means the likelihood of the customer being default. The second important part is loss given default, also known as LGD, which estimates the sensitivity of the loss if a default occurs. And the third one is EAD, which is also known as exposure at default, which represents the outstanding exposure at the time of default. So these are the 3 main key concepts. These parameters are foundationals, basically, of expected loss calculation and are central to Basel reporting framework as well. Now, what is Basel reporting framework? or Basel regulatory framework. It is basically a global banking standard that help ensuring the bank manage risk, responsibility, and maintain enough capital to stay stable and protect the customer. So Basel has a Basel 2 and Basel 3 standards also. So Basel 2 and 3 are also international banking regulations that strengthen how bank measures the risk and ensure they hold sufficient capital and liquidity to remain safe and resilient for the capital adequacy and risk weighted assets. So those are the concept basically, right? So LGD, PD, LGD, EAD, then Basel, regulations and so on and so forth. So from a governance perspective, regulatory guidance such as SR 11.7, it's also very important US guidelines that defines how bank must govern, validate, and monitor model. Ensuring model decisions are well documented, explainable, and independently reviewed and continuously overseen to manage the model risk efficiency or effectiveness. So that requires requires that credit risk models be well documented, explained, explainable, independently validated, and continuously monitored. This includes the robust data management, model performance testing, and also ongoing monitoring for the model drift and biasness. Moving on to the next one. Now this is quick comparison between the traditional versus the data-driven credit risk assessment. Traditionally, credit risk assessment has relied heavily on the expert judgment, which is basically humans are sitting and making the judgment. So there are static rules and scorecard-based approaches. So we have SOPs or the tick marks, which are which is what are used to eventually assess the overall risk. So these models are typically built on the limited variables and manually calibrated, right? So and they change very infrequently, which can make them slow to adopt the changing customer behavior and economical condition. So in contrast, the data-driven credit risk assessment uses the machine learning model to analyze the large volume of the structured and unstructured data. These models can capture non-linear relationship, improve probability of default prediction, and support more granular segmentation across the portfolios. So from a regulatory standpoint, this shift does not replace governance under the Basel framework and SR 11.7 framework. Data-driven model must still be explainable. They should be validated and well controlled in this case. So when implemented the system correctly, the data-driven approach enable better risk differentiation, faster decision, and improved loss management capabilities, while still remaining compliant and with the regulation or regulatory standards. Let's also talk about some challenges in the credit risk model development. So credit risk model presents several key challenges that directly impacts the model accuracy and regulatory acceptance. First, the data quality is foundational. Inconsistent or incomplete or poorly governed data can materially impact the quality of the PD, LGD, or EAD estimates, and making a strong data validation lineage and control is essential in this case. Second, the class imbalance is a common issue in the credit data set where default events are relatively rare. If they're not handled properly, this can lead to a biased model that predict the default risk and fail during the stress scenario. So that is also equally important. And the third is the regulatory compliance that remains a crucial challenge. So under the frameworks such as Basel or supervisory guidance like SR 11.7 that we talked about, model must be transparent, explainable, and independently validated, regardless of whether they are traditional or the machine learning based model. So finally, the fairness is increasingly important. Credit models must be monitored to ensure they do not introduce the unintended biasness, and and that lending decisions remain basically fair. So addressing these challenges requires a combination of a strong data governance, robust modeling technique, and continuous monitoring throughout the model life cycle. This is my second part of the segment, which is basically which is where we are marrying the Azure ML provided tools and techniques to the overall system that we have been talking about. So Azure Machine Learning provides an end-to-end platform for building and governing the credit risk model at scale. For data preparation and reuse, Azure Machine Learning integrates with the feature score, enable consistent and versioned feature across PD, LGD, and EAD model, which is critical for model reproducibility and auditability. Model development is accelerated using the automated machine learning, while ML flow integration ensures the full explainable tracking, model versioning, and the lineage. Key requirement which comes under the SR 11.7 model governance that we discussed. So from a responsible AI and regulatory standpoint, Azure ML also includes the responsible AI dashboard, which provides the model explainability, so which is very important, right? So one can go and see the behavior of AI, how it is reacting to the data which is being fed, and also can do the error analysis and assess the fairness to support the transparency and bias monitoring aligned with the Basel expectation, which is what we also discussed in the previous segment. So finally, Azure ML supports secure, scalable deployment and continuous monitoring, allowing the institution to track performance and data drift and risk metric in the production, ensuring that the model remain scalable, explainable, and compliant over the period of time. So then coming next is the data preparation and the feature engineering, which is the foundational work that we have to do before these models can work effectively. So for PD, LGD, and EAD model, high quality data is crucial. This basically includes the data cleaning, handling missing values, and outlier treatment, and ensuring that the consistency is achieved across the whole life cycle. All of which directly impacts the model stability and the regulatory expectations in this case. So from a model perspective, featuring, the feature engineering transforms the raw financial and financial and behavioral data into the meaningful risk indicators, such as the utilization ratio, delinquency trend, and exposure metric that basically, in a nutshell, significantly improve the predictive performance. Azure Machine Learning supports this process through data pipeline and transformation workflow, enabling the repeatable and auditable data preparation. The feature store plays a key role by centralizing and the versioning feature, ensuring the consistency between the training and production environment, which ensures that which basically in a nutshell is essential as far as the governance is concerned. Moving on to the next part, which is model development, training, and deployment. So model development in the credit risk is an iterative and highly governed process. Using machine learning, Azure Machine Learning, model are trained through the iterative training cycle, allowing the continuous improvement on the PD, which is probability of default, LGD, and EAD predictions as new data become available. So automated ML can be used to systematically evaluate the algorithm while maintaining the reproducibility. for model evaluation, Azure ML supports rigorous validation using the metrics such as the OC or KS, which precision, recall, and there are several like stability indices, which ensures the model meets both business and regulatory performance threshold under the stringent guidelines pushed by the regulators. So once validated, Azure ML enables the seamless deployment also through managed endpoint with a full model versioning and lineage tracking with the ML flow. And that ensures the auditability and governance requirement. Eventually, performance monitoring is also equally important here post the deployment. So Azure ML continuously tracks the model performance, data drift, and prediction distributions, obviously enabling the early detection of degenerations and ensuring model remain stable, explainable, and compliant in the production as well. This is the third segment of my discussions, which is responsible AI, ensuring credit risk model and its fairness, transparency, and accountability. This segment, we explore core principles of the ethical practices which are relevant for the financial decision making in this case. So fairness, accountability, and transparency are the core key principle. If we are collaborating, if we are using the AI for doing the credit risk assessment or for identifying the credit risk, it is very important that it is fair, accountable, and transparent in this case. So fairness ensures that the credit decisions do not introduce unintended bias across the protected or sensitive group. In practice, this means regularly evaluating the model outcome using the fairness metric and ensuring that the PD, LGD, and EAD predictions remain consistent and also equitably across the segment. Then accountability basically requires a clearly defined ownership across the model lifecycle. Transparency is essential for trust and regulatory compliance. Model must be explainable, as we all know, to the internal stakeholders, regulators, or the customers. Tools such as Azure ML, Responsible AI Dashboard provides the explainability in this case. So together, these three principles ensure that the credit risk models are not only accurate, but they are ethical, auditable, and defensible in real financial decision making. In Azure machine learning, the bias detection and mitigations are operationalized through the specific built-in capability. First, the fairness metrics are evaluated using the responsible AI dashboard, which enables the group-based analysis across the sensitive attributes and support metrics such as disparate impact, error rate, priority, and prediction distribution, which are basically various comparisons for the PD models. Second, the basically the stress testing can be implemented using the Azure ML pipeline, which synthetic or edge case scenarios are introduced during the validation to test model robustness under the very stringent condition, including the economic stress that may come during any phase. Then the third is the sampling and biased mitigation techniques, such as the class balancing or reweighting or some other methods of sampling which are applied during the training of the Azure ML and the data pipeline training scripts. Obviously, Azure ML supports continuous bias monitoring post deployment by integrating the production interface data back into the responsible AI dashboard, which eventually enables the ongoing fairness evaluation in line with the models and the governance. Going to the next part, which is the regulatory considerations and ethical guidelines. So regulatory consideration and ethical guidelines are also equally important to credit risk model in the financial institution. From the regulatory perspective, fairness such as the Basel 2 or the 3 requires the credit risk model supports PD, LGD, EAD calculations are well governed, validated and auditable. In the US, SR 11.7 further mandates strong model risk management, includes documentation, independent validation, and ongoing performance monitoring. Ethical guidelines extend beyond compliance. Credit model must ensure that fair treatment of the customer is enabled, transparent decisioning, and protections against the unintended discriminations is also very important. Aligning with fair lending principle eventually be ensured if those factors are considered. Azure machine learning supports these requirements through an end-to-end model lineage, versioning, and audit trail using the ML flow, which enables the institution to demonstrate the controls and the traceability. The responsible AI dashboard that we have been talking about provides the explainability. Together, these compliance and ethical governance ensure that the credit risk models are not only accurate, but they are scalable as well. And this is the fourth leg and the final leg of my presentation. So ongoing model monitoring and evaluations are critical to maintain the performance and fairness over time. The section kind of discussed the tool and the approaches for continuous improvement. So once the credit risk model is deployed, continuous performance monitoring become critical. From an accuracy perspective, Azure machine learning enables ongoing tracking of key metrics such as the OC or the KS, the precision recall, and the calibration, ensuring that the PD, LGD, and EAD predictions continue to meet the expected performance threshold in the production. Equally important is the data drift decision. Azure ML monitors shifts in input data distribution and prediction patterns, helping identify the changes in the customer behavior or the economical conditions that could impact the model reliability. Beyond performance, fairness also indicators must also be monitored post deployment. Using the responsible AI dashboard, institutes can evaluate the outcome of various results. So again, these conditions, these monitor capability supports the model requirement imposed by the government here for ongoing model oversight and enabling the the proactive remediation such as retraining or recalibrating before the material risk or the regulators issue come into the play. Responsible AI dashboard is another factor. In Azure machine learning, the AI performance and the responsible AI dashboard provides a unified view of model behavior by visualizing the key performance metrics. The data drifts and the fairness indicates that across different customer segments, how the model is performing. So this enables the real time oversight of the PD, LGD, and EAD model in the production environment. From the explainability perspective, Azure ML offers the built-in model explainability tool that also includes the global or the local, the features attributions, which can help explain why a specific credit decision was made. This is essential for regulators to review internal model validation and customer-facing explanation. All can also be provisioned through this channel. Then moving on to the next one, which is the credit risk model must also continuously evolve to remain accurate, fair, and compliant. So user feedback from the credit officer, risk analyst, and customer outcome provide a very critical signal on where model may underperform or create unintended friction. In Azure ML, the feedback can be systematically incorporated through the retraining pipeline and control model updates. Stakeholder engagements is equally important. So model changes are reviewed with the risk management, compliance, and the validation team to ensure the alignment with SR 11.7, fair lending requirements, and the internal governance standards before promoting the model to the production. So from the technical standpoint, model adoption is enabled through the Azure ML version pipeline, ML flow tracking, and the champion challenge framework allow institution to test improvement safely while preserving the auditability. This iterative feedback loop ensures that the credit risk model continuously improve while remaining stable, transparent, and regulatory ready in the changing economical and regulatory environment, basically. With that, I come to the final part of the presentation, which is conclusion. So building a credit risk model with Azure ML combined with responsible AI practice ensures that the ethical, transparent, and effective financial decisions are made. Continuous monitor is equally important that we discussed, and improvement maintains the trust and the compliance in the dynamic environment. With that, I'll take a pause and see if there are any questions that I can answer.
Very good, Ashish. I don't see anything in the comments here on my side. Any of you guys have any questions?
No, thank you, Ashish. It's a very good presentation.
Yeah, very good. I see a lot of stuff there that was in your presentation there kind of came up in the AI 900 certification, about the AI. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done that there last year, so it was kind of coming at me about the bias and the fairness and responsible AI. Yeah, very important. Very important. So yeah. So you'll be back again next week with us, Ashish, with another part of that. Yeah. Very good. So we have 3 more yourself and 2 other speakers next week. So we're kind of gone over the time this week, so we'll leave it there, and we'll be back again next week with more stuff from AI in the banking sector. So thanks everyone for your sessions. So
Thank you, Frank. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Frank, for providing the opportunity. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, guys. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.